Given the nature of the way things are evolving in America, which is where I am, and in Tennessee, which is where I am, it didn't feel right to make a video about arts and crafts. Things here are not great. I am fairly privileged. I was assigned female at birth, and that is an identity that I'm comfortable living in. I am married to a cisgender man, but also I look like this. The absolute audacity has expanded. If you don't know what I'm talking about, if you think I'm rambling about something that doesn't affect you at all, if you think I am a snowflake, you can leave. This video is not for you. This video is for people who are scared right now. Folks that are facing 4 years of their identities being erased or criminalized. People that feel powerless. If you are new to prepper survival mindset, let me hold your hand as we enter a new mindset together. My qualifications for this: I grew up under a crazy person in a cult. I know that sounds extreme. That's the reality. My parent hoarded precious metals to trade in the event of the economy crashing. They've hoarded self-defense mechanisms. I'm going to be a little bit vague because of YouTube. I come from, it is our right as a people to overthrow a government. Unfortunately, my path has diverged, and I am the reprobate Luciferian my father fears. He cannot unlearn all of these survival mechanisms he's instilled in me since my birth. On a more objective level, I have a master's in public administration that is based around research in community resilience and emergency preparedness. I spent 2 years literally writing the handbook for the state I went to grad school in as far as emergency preparedness goes. There are people that know more than me, but if you are looking for an entry-level introduction into being ready for shit to hit the fan, I would like to make this video to help you formulate your plan in the event of utilizing your RV, van, camper, truck camper, whatever, to keep yourself safe. I have gathered pretty much all of the thoughts in this video into a Google document that I've linked in the video description, and I will also pin as a comment. The very first general consideration that I'd like you to consider is your vehicle maintenance. I have harped on this on lots of videos. I've tried to make content that encourages general maintenance, that helps folks of all types figure out what they need to do to properly maintain their RVs for safety, for protecting your investment, so that you can have more fun. And that includes making sure your potable water tank is sanitized, making sure you're running your truck and your generator, making sure you're running all of your systems regularly, making sure that you know if you need to go get in your vehicle and leave, it's gonna start, all your systems are functional, you have a full gas tank, you have a full propane tank, your propane stove isn't clogged and it's gonna light and you're gonna be able to make food. You know that you properly winterized and you didn't have any frozen pipes that are gonna cause a leak once you flood water through your system. There are tons of basic maintenance activities that are good to do regardless of if you think you might need to use your vehicle in an emergency, but also it is very important to stay on top of that maintenance so that you know your vehicle is as reliable as it possibly could be and ready to go at a moment's notice. I also want to address the idea of fear-mongering. I don't want to name names, but there are some RV YouTubers and vloggers that rely on fear-mongering as their bread and butter. They want people to feel scared, and then people click on their headlines because, ooh, scary things are happening. We're not doing that here. This is not meant to make you afraid. This is meant to empower you to take a rational and objective approach to the types of emergencies that you are most likely to face and give you the tools to be able to have some peace of mind that no matter what you think might happen, you are going to be able to deal with that. There's a quote that's kind of attributed to General Eisenhower, but it's really like an old army quote. Plans are worthless, but planning is everything. I don't want you to feel like you have a plan for everything, because that is fear-mongering. That is paranoia. What we want to establish is that you know you are capable of planning, you know what you need to consider to plan, and you'll be able to execute whatever sort of on-the-go plan needs made based on what actually happens in your environment. You can't make a list of everything that could possibly go wrong, but what you can do are create operational schemas that will help you deal with things that go wrong by fitting them neatly into things that you've already considered. So for the purposes of this video and the attached document, I've outlined 4 different broad types of emergency situations that you might feel you need to prepare for. The first is a shelter-in-place situation. This is a scenario where you are not in any immediate danger, but the circumstances might limit your physical access to things like water, power, groceries, communication, Wi-Fi, cell signal, things like that. It might happen in the immediate aftermath of a weather event where you're not in danger from an active tornado, but a tornado has taken out resources around you. Another category of emergency is a household evacuation. This is for folks who have a primary sticks and bricks residence and then also an RV or travel vehicle. And in this situation, once you have evacuated from your sticks and bricks home, you are no longer in immediate danger. So an example of this is that your primary residence catches on fire. You're no longer in immediate danger once you've evacuated from that immediate location. Usually in this household evacuation, you're going to have a reasonable expectation of access to power, water, other facilities. You would typically be able to go to a local campground and expect that they still have water and power. You would be able to go to your local grocery store and expect that commerce would be continuing as usual. The third category that I'd like to talk about is a local evacuation. This is a situation where not only do you need to leave your household, but a lot of people around you are also disrupted. Even if it doesn't necessarily interrupt commerce as a whole, it could affect your ability to access things like cases of water at your local grocery store. In this case, a local shelter-in-place, like going to a nearby campground, might not actually be a good option because that campground might be full of other people who have evacuated from this similar location. An example of this would be the LA fires that have happened recently. Huge neighborhoods were evacuated, a lot of people were affected, and even though they were able to remove themselves from the immediate danger, lodging started to get difficult, access to resources started to get difficult, things like that. And then the final type of emergency that I want us to kind of consider is a regional disturbance. This is describing a situation where you are unsafe in your home, you need to leave your household and potentially even your county or your state in order to maintain your physical safety. I want to leave the definition for this very open-ended because we don't know what's about to happen, especially for vulnerable people whose identities are currently being attacked or erased. We do not know how unsafe certain parts of the United States are about to be. Like the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. People were forced to leave due to their safety, and many of them never returned to their home. You could also use the possibility of major political unrest or civil disturbances as an example for this. The important part of this example is not specifically what you should consider to be a reason to leave your region. The point of this video is to prompt you to decide for yourself how you can keep you and your loved ones safe indefinitely. And if you see a possibility where a regional disturbance would cause you to self-evacuate and attempt to find a more safe region, I want to help you feel comfortable that you've planned for that. It's very possible that commerce might be affected, access to power and potable water and utilities could potentially be affected. And again, this is not fear-mongering. I am absolutely not saying everything's going to crash down around us and we're not going to be able to get water out of our taps anymore. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that we need to be prudent to consider what could possibly happen over the next 4 years. So with all of that being said, and with clearly placing the onus of deciding what constitutes an emergency and what emergencies are worth evacuating or temporarily relocating for on you, I want to help you decide what an appropriate safety plan will be. Based on the research that I've done through grad school, ready.gov as of today, February 2nd, is an excellent resource to help you start to make your safety plan. We are currently seeing federal resources be removed and or changed rapidly and without warning. In the event that ready.gov goes down and or materially changes, I will back up that site locally and include it in the Google Drive with the initial planning document so that it should be accessible unless my Google Drive goes down, which could happen. Back up your resources. Have things available locally. The web is not infallible. My God, I sound like my father. I sound like my father. As an aside, if you feel overwhelmed right now, it's almost like that's the whole point. Take a deep breath. We will get through this together. We will persist. Ready.gov will walk you through making an emergency preparedness plan, and that will include how will I receive emergency alerts and warning? What is my shelter plan? What is my evacuation route? What is my family and household communication plan? Do I need to update my emergency preparedness kit? All of those things are processes that you need to work through on your own. There are a ton of resource on each of those, both from ready.gov and other creators. So the purpose of this video is not going to go into a ton of detail about like what your ready kit should be. If you have questions about that, if I get feedback that everyone wants me to make a video about how to make a go bag and what's in my go bag, I would be happy to do that. So ready.gov walks you through the basics of creating your emergency preparedness plan, including your emergency preparedness kit. Once you've laid that foundation, now we look at modifying that base plan and we look at how that plan needs to change and what considerations need to be added when we factor in the fact that we have a recreational vehicle that we are probably going to be using in the matter of our emergency plan. Our first consideration needs to be our base physical, physiological needs. The most important thing is water. You can survive a long time without food. You can survive a really long time without your cell phone. You are not lasting very long without potable, clean water. Like we talked about before, maintenance. Make sure your tanks aren't funky. Make sure that your water systems are working. Consider what types of emergencies you might be facing and decide if part of your plan is filling up your potable water tank before you leave your residence. Consider the types of emergencies you want to plan for and figure out if you think you can count on filling up at a gas station, filling up at a local campground. After Hurricane Helene, there were counties in East Tennessee that didn't have water for weeks because the literal water intake for the whole municipal water system got washed away. It was just gone. Think about what the water implications of specific types of emergencies mean for you and your plan. If you anticipate the need to source your own water from natural sources, figure out what's going to be required to filter and treat water that you get from a stream. Familiarize yourself with what the requirements to boil water to make it potable are. Familiarize yourself with what types of filtration systems are out there and what might work for your situation. Familiarize yourself with backup plans like iodine tablets. No one wants to survive long term off iodine treated water, trust me, but it's a really good backup plan, so consider if that's something that you need to add to your survival kit. Lastly, consider what your water needs will actually be. Humans and animals all have a kind of standard water need for survival. Familiarize yourself with that. After water, the next big survival factor is shelter. Congratulations, if you have an RV or van or camper, you're kind of way ahead of the curve on this. Consider if your vehicle is going to provide adequate shelter from the elements. And what I mean by that is, if you are in a summer camping rig in northern Minnesota in January, you're going to have additional shelter considerations and needs than someone who has a Four Seasons rig in like northern Florida, you know? It might be prudent to add insulation to your rig. It might be prudent to make sure that you have the power or fuel to run a fan or a heater. After water and shelter comes food. In a lot of situations, you're going to have access to food in some capacity. It might not be great food. You might not be able to like run to the Taco Bell and get some Crunch Wraps. In most modern societies, there is a basic expectation that food will be available. That being said, there are a lot of considerations for both having emergency access to food and being able to prepare that food. Cooking your own food means that you're washing your own dishes. That means you need to have water and dish cleaning supplies. You need to be generating a heat source, which means you either need to have a propane stove, which means you need propane, a campfire, which means you need a safe place to start a fire, fire starting materials, fire fuel. An electric cooktop or a pressure cooker or things like that require electricity in your rig. That means you either need to be hooked up to shore power or running your generator or topping your batteries up with solar. There is no one specific plan for how you need to have definite access to food and nutrition, but start thinking about these things. Think about what your food needs will be. Think about how you can ensure that for whatever period you think you might not be able to access a grocery store, know that you and your loved ones that are traveling with you will have enough food to survive. Consider where you're going to obtain power from. If you are counting on your generator as a backup source, do you think you'll have access to generator fuel? And if so, how much? For how long? Do you know how long your generator can run off of one tank of fuel? Do you know how often you'll need to find more fuel in order to keep it running at a certain capacity? Consider an off-grid power source like solar panels and batteries. Are you in a place where you're getting enough sunlight that those solar panels can keep you topped up? Is your battery bank robust enough to function all of the appliances that you need? If you were planning on relying on shore power, if you believe shore power will be available in the emergencies you'll be facing, that's fine, but what's your backup plan? Do you have a dog leg in case the campground is so full they only have a 50 amp pedestal when you're a 30 amp? Do you have a converter so that if you mooch dock on your friend's property, you can plug into an extension cord to run your vital systems? Think about the ways you normally receive power to your rig and consider how you can make those more robust and implement more backup systems in case of primary system failure. Identify any survival crucial powered machines that absolutely have to be kept running no matter what. Some examples of this might be oxygen systems. It might be your refrigerator in case you have a medication that needs to stay refrigerated, like insulin. This might be a CPAP machine that you need to run all night or you're at risk. Know what your survival needs are and make sure that you have plans for that. The next consideration that I want to talk about, I think, is very, very underrepresented in the mainstream prepping space. And that is community. One person does not have the ability to know everything, to prepare for everything, to have backups of everything. Find people that you trust. Find local people that you trust that if your house burns down, you can show up in their driveway and they'll let you in. Find people that you trust outside of your region. If you think that you might need to leave your state in the future, find someone in a different state, contact them securely, have a plan in place that, you know, hey, if things go really wrong, I'll give you a 300-mile notice. Find people that you trust, make connections with them. Find people with a variety of skills. And remember that we are stronger together. Along with finding your community, establish secure communication protocols. If you think that you might be discussing anything that might potentially be criminalized in the near future, anything that might be problematic, communicate securely. Find an app like Signal. Use Proton email. There are a ton of sources out there of how to protect yourselves and other potentially marginalized individuals. If you identify any local safety concerns that you think you might need to organize a recovery spot for you and loved ones, do that. And then finally, don't expect the information on your cell phone to be available to you forever. If you need someone's phone number or address or anything like that, write it down, put it somewhere safe, keep it secure, but make sure it's accessible to you. So you've got your physical needs under control, your food, your water, your shelter, you have a plan for all that. You have connected with your community, you have planned both how you will contribute to your community and how your community can support you based on potential emergencies. There are also a lot of safety considerations that need to go into your emergency plan. Some of this is very, very basic, but it needs to be considered. Make sure that your doors lock. Make sure that you have made your vehicle as physically safe as you can. You might also consider installing a safe that drills into your frame. You might consider where in your vehicle might be the safest place to hide certain things. Consider items that might increase your personal protection. This is up to you to decide what you're comfortable with and what might be prudent for you. But there is a time and a place for specific types of self-defense devices. It might also be prudent if you are concerned with the execution of vehicle searches. It might be prudent to understand your rights around what types of locked containers require additional warrants and or might be more secure and safe from searches. That's on you to figure out. I am not a lawyer and I will not be giving any advice on that, but it is a consideration that if we're going to be living in a world with certain rules, we should learn to play by them. Consider removing identifying information from your vehicle. On the back window of my RV, I have a big Instagram panel that says USS.Overlander. And if at any point I feel like anything I've said on this channel might result in me being unsafe here, that bad boy needs to come down. If you have any sort of identifying decals and magnets that will make your vehicle recognizable from place to place, that might be a consideration to remove. If you have anything that signifies that you are a part of a specific marginalized community, that might be a safety consideration for you to remove. As much as I hate that this is the way it is, profiling exists. When I had my rainbow tinsel wrapped around my mirror arms, I got pulled over driving my Class C RV 65 miles an hour in a 65-mile-an-hour zone. I took an exit to get gas, and in my 24-foot RV, my tire crossed the line on the exit. And he pulled me over because he wanted to know if I was getting tired. Okay, alright. And the peeking all through the window and in my cup holders and looking into my RV. Okay. Be sure your rig includes a non-expired fire extinguisher. Lots of rigs come with them. They tend to disappear. Some people just take them out completely because they take up space. That's dumb. Don't do that. Have a fire extinguisher. Carry a weather radio with some extra batteries. Also, on the topic of physical safety, look at your medical supplies. Address what potential needs you'll have and plan for them. Put together a basic first aid kit for your vehicle. Even if you're not planning an emergency, have a basic first aid kit. Consider additional supplies. Think about if you might want to add things like a tourniquet or trauma kit. If you want to add Narcan or any other specialized supplies. Those are very important. There's a time and a place for them. Make sure you know how to use them, okay? Having equipment is great, but if you're going to have specialized equipment, go to the trouble of learning how to use it. On that note, educate yourself on first aid basics. Understand basic wound care. Understand how to recognize and treat shock. Understand how to recognize and treat basic things like a concussion or potentially exposure to skin or eye irritants. As far as medications go, prescription medications might be difficult to access during an emergency, and you can't just stockpile certain types of prescription med, but consider that in your planning. Consider what kind of harm reduction you can plan for so that if you can't access your prescription medication, you are dealing with the least amount of burden possible. You might also consider your access to contraceptives. Depending on the type of emergency, standard contraceptives might not be available. There are some drastic permanent measures that folks are taking in case their access to contraceptives are stopped. Figure out what your risk is, figure out what you need to do to keep yourself safe, and then plan for what could happen. Put together a basic hygiene kit. Know your basic daily hygiene needs and the needs of those people around you and plan for them. Consider that people who menstruate might need some extra supplies, baby wipes, pads, tampons, cups, things like that. People who wear glasses or contacts, extra considerations. Stock your vehicle with at least one full-size towel for each person. Trust me, you do not want to be in the middle of a crisis and also have to use a wet towel that someone else just used when they showered, I promise. Make sure you have your basic cleaning supplies. Dish soap, laundry soap, bathroom cleaner, things like that. Determine if you think you'll have access to laundry facilities. If not, make sure that you have a tub that you could wash laundry in or a water bag. Have a backup plan for clean socks. Additional safety considerations. Navigation. Determine if you need paper maps. Determine if you think your phone or GPS will be functional in the type of emergency you expect. Determine if you're comfortable using a navigation system like Google Maps. Potentially, that could be recording or sharing your location with other parties. Know what your privacy expectations will need to be and plan for that. Have some basic tools around. Think about what kinds of basic materials you might need to fix the common problems that happen with houses that endure 60-mile-per-hour earthquakes every day. Some personal considerations, and this kind of goes hand in hand with having a go bag. Cash. You don't know when credit card systems are going to go down. Have some cash with you. Alternatively, have some credit cards with you. If you don't have enough cash to fill your gas tank and it's an emergency, be ready to put that on a credit card. We can deal with the interest later. Your credit card is not just free money, but have an emergency credit card, understand how credit cards work, and be ready to deal with that. Your personal documents. Again, this is kind of go bag material, but it's so important, I don't want to leave it out of the video. Your driver's license or other personal identification, important documents like your marriage certificate, any sort of power of attorney, adoption certificates. If you have legal paperwork that establishes your relationship to someone, especially if it's a relationship that might be questioned based on changes coming up, have that paperwork with you. Keep it safe, keep copies of it, and make sure it's on you. This is secondary to physical survival, but consider offline entertainment. Throw some books in your RV. If you have kids or multiple people, throw some board games in the RV. I have talked too much and my camera battery died, and I don't have my tripod for my phone, but I'm almost done here, bear with me. Consider items that will make you and your companions feel safe. If you have a blanket or a stuffed animal or noise-canceling headphones or fidget toys, tactile things, it's okay to want to be comfortable and safe. It's okay to take up energy and room planning for your own comfort. So this has been a pretty weird video, I guess, with what I've normally made on my channel, and I'm not really even sure how to end something like this. But I think what I have to say is that right now, community is important. And even though my channel will continue to mostly be RV maintenance and RV DIY stuff and adventuring, the thing that's important to me right now is sharing the information that I have with people who might need it. In transparency, I feel very vulnerable right now. I think that I am a lot safer than a lot of people are, but also I do not feel safe with the way things are going. Some of that is through personal decision. I will continue having blue hair. That will continue making me stand out, especially living in East Tennessee, and that's fine. I'll deal with the repercussions of that. I can change my hair color. My friends can't change their identities. The purpose of this video and what's important for me right now is getting the information I have to people who hopefully can use it to feel more safe. And I also want to make it clear that this is a safe space for people who don't look like me, who are more oppressed than me, who are marginalized, and who are having their identities actively attacked. Now is the time to band together, and I want it to be clear what side I'm on. So, that being said, it is what it is. We'll get through it together, and let's just all agree to make it to the next adventure.